I walked into dinner late. The chicken smelled burnt, sharp in the back of my throat. Nobody looked up. Caleb was already sitting at the head of the table. My seat. I noticed. I didn't say anything. I sat down anyway, quiet. Out of habit more than choice. He didn't hesitate. He didn't lower his voice. He didn't even look embarrassed. He looked straight at me and said, loud and clear, "Is this useless old woman here again?" The sound that came after wasn't silence. It was laughter, forks tapping plates. Someone snorted. Someone coughed to cover a laugh and didn't do a good job. I waited. I really did. For someone to say his name, for someone to tell him to stop. Nobody did. My face felt hot. My mouth went dry, like all the moisture just left. I couldn't think of a single sentence that didn't sound small or desperate, so I didn't try. I folded my napkin. My hands were steady, which surprised me. I wiped my mouth once. Slow. "Excuse me," I said. That was it. I stood up and walked out of my own dining room while the noise picked back up behind me, like nothing important had happened. In my bedroom, I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at my hands. They looked older than I felt, or maybe I felt older than I wanted to admit. My name is Marlo Kincaid. I am 67 years old. That night, sitting there alone, I realized something I couldn't unhear. Maybe this is what disappearing sounds like. And once that thought settles in, it doesn't leave easily. I'll tell you the ugly part. I didn't always let people talk to me like that. There was a time I'd answer back. Correct people. Say no without apologizing first. That version of me existed. I know because I remember my husband laughing once and saying, "You scare people when you get that tone." He meant it as a joke. I liked it. Then he died. After that, the house got loud in a different way. Not noise space, empty space, the kind that rings in your ears when you wake up at night and reach for someone who isn't there. When Caleb asked to move in, he didn't frame it as need. He framed it as help. "I don't want you alone, Mom." That word, alone, it landed hard. At first, it was small things. Just until we get back on our feet, just until the kids settle, just for a few months. I believed every one of those sentences. I swear I did. I gave up the guest room first, then the den, then opinions. I'd start a sentence and stop halfway, because no one was listening anyway. Eventually, I gave up my bedroom. Caleb didn't ask. He just said, "It makes more sense." And I nodded like I agreed. I started apologizing for existing in shared space. "Sorry. I'll eat later. Sorry. I'll move. Sorry. I didn't know you were using that." "Once," Caleb snapped. "Why do you always act like a victim?" I laughed. I actually laughed. I said, but I did, just quietly. That's the part I hate the most. Not what he said, what I allowed. I kept telling myself it was temporary. That noise was better than silence, that being needed even like this was better than being alone. That night, after dinner, sitting on my bed, I finally admitted something I'd been dodging for years. I hadn't stayed quiet because I was weak. I stayed quiet because I was afraid. And fear has a way of teaching you bad habits that feel like survival. I couldn't sleep. The house was quiet, but not peaceful. It smelled like old coffee. The kind that's been sitting out too long. Bitter. Stale. That smell made me restless, like something unfinished. I got up and opened the closet. The lockbox was on the top shelf, pushed all the way back. I hadn't touched it in years. I told myself there was no reason to, that everything important was handled. That was the lie. I sat on the floor and opened it. The sound of the latch felt too loud. Inside were folders, envelopes, loose papers, familiar at first glance, wrong the longer I looked. Statements weren't in order, months missing, then entire years. I flipped through faster. my hands starting to shake. One envelope stopped me. My address was crossed out. Not neatly, hard lines. Someone pressing the pen down. Under it was an email address I recognized immediately. Caleb's. I felt my stomach drop like I'd missed a step on the stairs. I kept digging. More copies, more rerouted mail, notices I'd never seen. Things I should have known about. Things I definitely hadn't approved. I said his name out loud, just to hear it. Caleb? No answer. Of course. The house stayed quiet. Then it hit me. A memory I hadn't questioned at the time. Him standing over me at the kitchen counter, papers spread out, his voice quick, casual. It's nothing. Mom, just in case. I remember hesitating, pen in my hand, asking. In case of what? He smiled. Too fast, nothing bad, just business stuff. You trust me. Right, I signed. I didn't read every line. I didn't slow him down. I didn't want to look difficult. I didn't want him to think I didn't trust him. Sitting there on the floor, papers spread around me like evidence. I realized something that made my chest tight. I never asked in case of what because I didn't want to know. Trust isn't always given. Sometimes it's just avoidance dressed up as love. I traced the numbers with my finger like they might change if I touched them long enough. They didn't. Business loan. That's what it said. Clear as day. My name underneath. My signature. Slanted the way it always is when I'm rushed. I sat there and tried to remember the conversation where someone told me Caleb's shop had failed. I couldn't, because it never happened. There was no warning, no update, no we're struggling. Just silence wrapped in confidence. I flipped the page. Payment history. Month after month. Steady. Too steady. Then I saw where the money was coming from. My rental income. The small duplex I kept after my husband died. The one I said I'd use for later. Whatever that meant. Every payment lined up with deposits I recognized but hadn't looked at closely in years. I said it out loud. No. The room didn't answer. Another page. Notes in the margin. An account labeled Household Management. Taryn's name appeared there. Not signed. Typed. Clean. Managed. That was the word they liked to use. I'll manage it. Mom, less stress for you. I laughed then. A short, sharp sound that surprised me. I felt stupid. I mean really stupid. Not because I trusted them. Because I'd let trust replace attention. I imagined the conversations I wasn't part of. It's fine. She won't notice. It's her money anyway. The anger didn't explode. It didn't need to. It settled. Cold. Precise. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't a mistake. This was convenient silence built on my avoidance. On my fear of rocking the boat. On my need to be needed instead of respected. I stacked the papers neatly. That felt important. Control starts with small things. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't wake anyone up. I just sat there, breathing slow, realizing something that hurt more than the numbers. They hadn't taken advantage of me because I was old. They took advantage of me because I was quiet. I sat on the edge of the bed with my phone in my hand, like it might bite me. Henry Wallace. The name was still there. Same number. I hadn't called him since my husband's funeral. Back then, Henry had worn the same gray suit and said, "Call me if you need anything." And I'd nodded like people do when they know they won't. My thumb hovered. I almost put the phone down. My hand was shaking enough that I had to steady it against my knee. I called. "Henry Wallace," he said. Calm, like no time had passed. "It's Marlowe," I said. "Marlowe Kincaid." I didn't wait for him to respond, but I just started talking, too fast, tripping over myself, the dinner, the papers, the loan, the redirected mail, Caleb, Taryn, the duplex. All of it came out in one breath. He didn't interrupt. That made it worse. When I finally stopped, there was a pause on the line. Not a bad connection pause, a thinking pause. That scared me more than yelling would have. Marlo, he said slowly, you still have options. I closed my eyes. My shoulders dropped a little. Then he added, but they won't like them. I laughed under my breath. It came out wrong. I don't care if they like them, I said. Then I corrected myself. No, that's not true. I do care. I just can't keep paying for it. He asked a few questions. Short ones. Precise. Did you sign as guarantor? Yes. Was the power of attorney limited? I think so. Did you authorize the rerouting of statements? No. Another pause. Shorter this time. I need to see everything. He said, tomorrow morning, bring every document you have. What happens if I do this? I asked. You'll cross a line, he said. Once you do. There's no pretending nothing's wrong. I looked around my room, the small one, the one that used to be a sewing room. I'm tired of pretending. I said, and I'm tired of being liked. He exhaled. Good, he said. Then we can work. When the call ended, I sat there for a long moment with the phone in my lap. My heart was pounding. Not fear exactly. Something closer to relief mixed with dread. I'd made the call I'd been avoiding. Be honest, who's the one? Call you keep putting off because you know everything changes after you make it. Henry didn't soften it. I'm glad he didn't. He spread the papers across the desk and said, let's start with what's actually yours. The house, he said, tapping the page, fully in your name. No liens. No shared ownership. I blinked. Fully yes. He said. No one else has a claim. Something loosened in my chest. Just a little. He slid the next document forward. The power of attorney. Limited. Very limited. It was used outside its scope. So I didn't imagine that, I said. No, he said, it was abused, and it's revocable. Today, if you want, I swallowed. And the lone Henry didn't hesitate. Dangerous, time-sensitive. You're the guarantor. If the business defaults fully, the bank comes to you. I stared at the numbers. The balance made my head throb. How long do I have? Not long, he said. And once you pull out, the bank will move fast. They'll contact your son. He'll need collateral immediately. I pictured Caleb's face, the confidence, the way he'd laughed. What happens after that, I asked. Henry met my eyes. He'll be angry, confused. He'll say you blindsided him. Your family will say you overreacted. And legally, I asked. You'll be protected, he said. Emotionally, I can't help you there. The pen felt heavier than it should have when he placed it in my hand. My name was already printed at the bottom. All I had to do was sign. I hesitated, not because I didn't understand, but because I did. This might blow up my family. This might make me the villain in their story. I signed. Henry nodded once and slid another page toward me. Revocation, he said. I didn't pause this time. I signed again. When I stood up, my legs felt unsteady, but my voice didn't. What happens now? I asked. Now, he said, you wait, and you don't backtrack. I walked out knowing something important had shifted, not just on paper. I'd stopped asking for permission to protect myself. Be honest. Would you sign if you knew people you love would hate you for it? Caleb cornered me in the kitchen like it was an accident, like he'd just wandered in and I happened to be there. He had papers in his hand, a neat stack, too neat. Hey, Mom, he said, smiling. The smile didn't reach his eyes. Just routine stuff. I didn't take the papers. I didn't even look at them. I'm not signing anything right now, I said. My voice was soft. That surprised both of us. His smile tightened. It's nothing, he said. Same as before. I said no. He stepped closer. I caught the smell of his cologne. Too strong. Like he'd sprayed extra. Maybe hoping confidence was something you could apply. Come on, he said. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I'm not. I said, "You are." That shifted something. His voice sharpened. "After all I do for you," he said. "After everything we've handled so you don't have to worry." I looked at the papers then. The top page had a sticky note on it. My name written in his handwriting. An arrow pointing to a signature line. "I didn't ask you to handle it," I said. He laughed. Short, forced. "You're really doing this now?" Yes. That was when I saw it. Not anger, not entitlement. Fear. He swallowed and lowered his voice. "Mom, listen. This isn't the time to get stubborn. I'm not stubborn." I said, "I'm done being rushed." His jaw tightened. "You're going to mess things up." For who I asked. He didn't answer right away. That was answer enough. He shoved the papers back into his folder. "Fine," he said. "We'll talk later." He walked out like he still had control, but he didn't look back. He didn't need to. I was still there, still standing. My hands were shaking. I pressed them flat against the counter until they stopped. I realized something then, standing alone in that kitchen. When my answer changed, so did he. Notice how people change when your answer does. Morning light crept into the hallway before I was ready for it. I was standing by the sink when the phone rang. Not mine. His. At first, I only heard pieces. Caleb's voice drifting down the hall. Casual. Then confused. "What do you mean I'm no longer listed?" I dried my hands slowly. I didn't rush. I didn't hide. His voice tightened. Dropped lower. "No. There has to be a mistake." She wouldn't. Footsteps. Fast. Heavy. He came into the kitchen, pale. Eyes wide like someone had pulled the ground out from under him. He didn't bother pretending this time. "What did you do?" he asked. I met his eyes. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't soften it either. "I removed myself as guarantor," I said. "I revoked the power of attorney. I protected what's mine." He stared at me like he didn't recognize me. "You had no right," he said. The words came out thin. "I had every right." I said, "I just hadn't been using it." He ran a hand through his hair. "They said I have 48 hours," he said. "They said I need collateral. Do you know what that means?" "Yes," I said. "It means they're finally talking to the right person." His mouth opened, closed. He looked around the kitchen like someone might step in and fix this. No one did. "You blindsided me," he said. "You hid from me." I said, "For years." "That loan was family," he snapped. "You were helping. I was being used." I said, "There's a difference." He didn't yell. That surprised me. He just stood there, breathing hard, holding his phone like it might start ringing again and finish the job. Silence settled between us, heavy, loud, the kind that presses on your ears for once. I didn't rush to fill it. I didn't apologize. I didn't explain myself again in smaller words. I felt something unfamiliar rise up in me. Not joy, not triumph. Space. He finally turned away without another word. I watched him go, my heart still pounding, but my spine straight. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't shrinking to make the moment easier for someone else. Be honest. Does this feel like revenge? Or just consequences finally catching up? The coffee in Henry's office had gone cold by the time we sat down. No one touched it. Henry laid the documents out in a straight line, like he wanted there to be no confusion about what was happening. "These are the numbers," he said. "There's no hiding in them." Caleb leaned forward. "It's not like that." He said too fast. "She knew I was using the money. It was for the house, for the family." Henry didn't look at him. He looked at me. "Did you authorize the use of your rental income to service a failed business loan?" "No," I said. Caleb turned to me. "You said you trusted me. I trusted you to tell me the truth." I said, "You didn't." Henry finally looked at him. "What you're describing," he said calmly, "is financial exploitation." That word landed heavy. Even Caleb felt it. His shoulders dropped a fraction. I didn't mean, Henry raised a hand. Intent doesn't erase impact. I took a breath. This was the part I'd rehearsed in my head all night. There are two options, I said. My voice didn't shake. Caleb looked up. Hope flickered. 2. Yes, I said. 2. No third. Henry slid the first page forward. Option 1. He said, you move out within 6 months. You pay modest rent during that time. You repay the loan balance in installments. No more access to her accounts. No more signatures. Everything in writing. Caleb swallowed. And option 2. Henry slid the second page forward. Immediate legal action. Full claim on the outstanding amount. Eviction proceedings. Silence. Thick. Final. I leaned in slightly. One more thing, I said. Caleb looked at me. What I'm taking back my bedroom, I said. The one your father and I shared. I'll move back this week. He stared at me. You're serious? I'm done asking permission, I said. He opened his mouth, then closed it. For the first time, he didn't argue. He just nodded once. Slow, Henry gathered the papers. You have until tomorrow to decide. He said. When we stood, Caleb hesitated like he wanted to say something else. He didn't. I walked out of that office feeling hollow and solid at the same time, like something had finally settled where it belonged. If you were me, would you still offer mercy when you finally had the power to take it all back? Caleb agreed the next day. Not happily, not with grace. We'll do it your way, he said, staring at the floor. 6 months. The payments, all of it. I nodded. Good. That was it. No apology worth naming. No hug. Just a decision made under pressure. Things didn't magically fix themselves after that. They got quieter. That was the change. The shouting stopped. The sarcasm faded. Conversations became careful. Like everyone was walking around furniture they'd just noticed was sharp. I got my accounts back first. Henry called and said, You're the only authorized name now. Hearing that felt strange, like being handed keys I'd forgotten were mine. I moved back into my bedroom the following week. Caleb watched from the hallway while I carried my things in. He didn't argue. That mattered more than an apology. Some nights, I miss the noise. I won't pretend I don't. The house feels bigger when people stop filling it with their wants. Silence still scares me sometimes. But most mornings, I breathe easier. I make coffee without rushing. I check my balances because I can. I say no without explaining myself afterward. Caleb pays what he owes. On time so far. He doesn't joke about me anymore. He doesn't joke at all. I don't know if I did the right thing. I go back and forth on that. I replay moments in my head, wonder if I could have handled it softer, earlier, better. What I do know is this: I did something. I stopped shrinking. I stopped trading dignity for peace. I stopped pretending that being quiet was the same as being kind. If you're listening to this and seeing yourself somewhere in it, take that seriously. Pay attention to where you're minimizing yourself just to keep things smooth. That cost adds up. I'm not done. With my life, with my voice, with choosing myself, even when it's uncomfortable. If this story hit close to home, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment. Talk about it. These conversations matter, especially the ones we put off. I'm still here, and I'm not disappearing anymore.